In the dead of night, a priceless portrait vanishes from a locked room, leaving only whispers of a curse and a trail of deceit that even the sharpest minds can't unravel. Welcome to Miss Marple's Riddle of the Vanished Portrait. Grab a cup of tea, take a seat and enjoy the story. If you're hooked, subscribe to our channel. Your support means a lot to us. Chapter 1. The Shadowed Arrival at Eldridge Manor. Hello, mystery lovers, and let's dive right into the heart of our tale. In this opening chapter, we're setting the stage in the quaint yet eerie village of St. Mary's Mead, where our beloved Miss Jane Marple, that unassuming elderly spinster with a knack for spotting wickedness in the most ordinary places, finds herself drawn into a puzzle that starts with a simple invitation but quickly spirals into something far more sinister. You know Miss Marple, she's the one who knits quietly in the corner, observing human nature like a hawk and solving crimes that baffle the police. Here, we'll introduce her arrival at Eldridge Manor, explore the quirky cast of characters gathering there, and hint at the first ripples of unease that foreshadow the vanishing act to come. Think of this as your entry point into a classic whodunit, complete with red herrings, family secrets, and those practical tips on observation that Miss Marple swears by. Tips you can even apply to your own life, like noticing inconsistencies in people's stories or paying attention to overlooked details in everyday conversations. Our story begins on a crisp autumn afternoon in 1952, as Miss Marple steps off the train at the sleepy station of St. Mary's Mead. She's carrying her worn tapestry bag, filled with knitting needles, a few balls of wool, and a copy of the latest Agatha Christie novel. Ironic, isn't it? How life imitates art. But Miss Marple isn't here for leisure. She's been summoned by an old acquaintance, Lady Beatrice Eldridge, whose urgent letter spoke of troubling matters at the family estate. As she waits for the carriage, Miss Marple adjusts her spectacles and surveys the platform. The air is thick with the scent of fallen leaves and distant wood smoke, but there's an undercurrent of something off. Perhaps the way the station master avoids eye contact, or the hurried whispers of two villagers nearby. People are the same everywhere, Miss Marple muses to herself, recalling a similar scene from her youth in the village, where a missing brooch led to revelations of embezzlement. It's a practical reminder. Always trust your instincts about body language. A fidgety glance can reveal more than words ever do. The carriage arrives, driven by a grizzled old man named Hawkins, who tips his hat with a grunt. "Miss Marple, ma'am? Lady Eldridge is expecting you. Mind the ruts. The road's a bit wild these days." As they rattle along the winding lane toward Eldridge Manor, Miss Marple engages him in light conversation, drawing out bits of local gossip like threads from a skein. Hawkins mentions the manor's recent troubles, strange noises at night, valuables going missing from the attics, and rumours of a family curse tied to an old portrait of the first Lord Eldridge, painted in the 18th century. "They say it watches you," he mutters, his eyes darting to the darkening woods. Miss Marple nods thoughtfully, filing away these details. "Here's a tip for you viewers. When piecing together a mystery in real life, say, figuring out who's been dipping into the office cookie jar, start by listening to the servants or the overlooked folks. They see everything without being seen." Eldridge Manor looms into view as the sun dips low, casting long shadows over its ivy-clad stone walls and towering chimneys. It's a grand old pile, built in the Georgian style, with mullioned windows that seem to peer out like suspicious eyes. Miss Marple is greeted at the door by the butler, Mr. Graves, a tall, solemn figure with a face like carved marble. "Welcome, Miss Marple. Lady Eldridge awaits in the drawing room." He leads her through an echoing hallway lined with ancestral portraits, their painted gazes following her every step. She pauses briefly at one, a stern gentleman in Regency attire, his eyes rendered with such lifelike intensity that it's almost unnerving. "Ah, the famous Lord Eldridge," she comments. Graves nods stiffly. Indeed, ma'am. The portrait is the pride of the house, or was until the whispers started. Miss Marple raises an eyebrow but says nothing, storing that away like a squirrel with nuts. In the drawing room, a fire crackles merrily in the grate, but the atmosphere is anything but warm. Lady Beatrice Eldridge, a frail woman in her 70s with silver hair piled high and a string of pearls around her neck, rises to greet Miss Marple with a trembling hand. "Jane, dear, thank heavens you've come. I didn't know who else to turn to." Seated around the room are the other guests, each introduced with a flourish that barely masks the underlying tensions. There's Sir Reginald Eldridge, Lady Beatrice's nephew, a bluff military man with a moustache like a broom and a habit of barking orders. Think of him as the type who'd dominate a dinner party with war stories, but whose bluster might hide financial woes. Next to him sits his wife, Clarissa, a glamorous former actress with sharp features and a laugh that's just a tad too forced. She's the sort who collects admirers like stamps. But Miss Marple notes the way her eyes flicker toward the door, as if expecting trouble. Then there's young Amelia Eldridge, Lady Beatrice's grandniece, a bright-eyed girl of 20 with bobbed hair and a modern flair for painting. She's studying art in London and dreams of exhibiting her work, but her sketches scattered on the side table show a talent for capturing hidden emotions. Amelia confides in Miss Marple later that evening. "Aunt Beatrice thinks the manor is haunted, but I say it's just old pipes and imagination." Practical tip here. When dealing with family dynamics, like in your own holiday gatherings, watch for alliances. Amelia and Clarissa exchange knowing glances, suggesting shared secrets. Rounding out the group is Dr. Harlan Thorpe, the family physician, a bespectacled man with a soothing voice and a pocket watch he fiddles with nervously. He's been treating Lady Beatrice for nerves, but Miss Marple wonders if his prescriptions are more than they seem. And let's not forget Cousin Victor Langford, a slick investor from the city with oily charm and a gold pinky ring. He's here to discuss business opportunities with Sir Reginald, but his shifty demeanour screams opportunist as tea is served, scones with clotted cream, cucumber sandwiches, and Earl Grey in delicate china. Lady Beatrice finally reveals the reason for the gathering. "It's the portrait, Jane, the one of Lord Eldridge. It's vanished. Gone from its frame in the gallery last night with no sign of forced entry. The room was locked, the windows barred, and there's this riddle left behind." She produces a crumpled note from her pocket, reading aloud in a quavering voice. "In shadows deep where secrets lie, the face that watches fades from eye. Seek not the thief in light of day, but in the heart where trusts betray." Miss Marple leans forward, her knitting needles clicking rhythmically. "Fascinating," she says mildly. "A riddle indeed. Reminds me of that case in the village with the missing will, turned out to be hidden in plain sight." The group reacts variably. Sir Reginald scoffs. "Poppycock. Probably a servant's prank." Clarissa shivers dramatically. Amelia sketches the note furtively. Dr. Thorpe suggests it's stress-induced hallucination. And Victor smirks. Valuable piece, that portrait. Insured, I hope. Over dinner that evening, a hearty roast beef with Yorkshire pudding, though the conversation is anything but appetizing. Miss Marple observes the interplay. She notes how Sir Reginald argues with Victor over money matters, hinting at debts. How Clarissa flirts subtly with Dr. Thorpe, eliciting jealous glares from her husband. And how Amelia excuses herself early, claiming a headache, but really slipping off to the gallery. Practical advice for everyday sleuthing. At social events, position yourself to overhear without intruding. Miss Marple's corner chair by the fire is perfect for that. As the evening winds down, a storm brews outside, thunder rumbling like distant accusations. Miss Marple retires to her room, a cosy chamber with floral wallpaper and a four-poster bed, but sleep eludes her. She ponders the riddle. Shadows deep. Trusts betray. Could it point to a hidden passage? Or a betrayal among the family? Wrapping up this chapter, we've met our players and glimpsed the enigma of the vanished portrait, setting a foundation of suspicion and intrigue. Miss Marple's quiet wisdom reminds us that mysteries often hide in the mundane. Keep an eye on those around you and question the obvious. Stay tuned for Chapter 2, where the investigation deepens with the discovery of a hidden clue in the manor's dusty library, and tensions among the guests begin to boil over. Chapter 2. The Library's Hidden Clue. The storm rages outside Eldridge Manor, rain lashing the windows as Miss Jane Marple sits in her room, her knitting needles idle for once. The cryptic riddle from the vanished portrait nags at her. Its words, shadows deep, trusts betray, echoing like a half-remembered tune. She decides to start her investigation where secrets often hide, the manor's library. Slipping on her shawl, she lights a small oil lamp and ventures into the shadowed corridors, her soft footsteps muffled by the thunder. The house feels alive, creaking and groaning, as if it's whispering its own secrets. She pauses at a suit of armor, its empty visor gleaming faintly, and wonders if it's guarding more than just the hallway. The library is a cavernous room, its high shelves stuffed with leather-bound tomes and dusty ledgers, lit only by the flickering glow of her lamp and occasional lightning flashes. The air smells of old paper and wax polish. Miss Marple sets her lamp on a heavy oak table and begins her search, her sharp eyes scanning for anything out of place. She's drawn to a corner where a tapestry hangs slightly askew, depicting a hunt with hounds frozen mid-chase. Lifting it, she discovers a small, locked door set into the panelling, its brass keyhole tarnished with age. Her lips purse in a faint smile. Hidden doors are rarely innocent. She makes a mental note to ask Lady Beatrice about keys in the morning. As she turns back to the shelves, a faint scratching sound catches her ear. Not from the storm, but from within the room. She moves silently toward the source, her lamp casting long shadows. Behind a row of encyclopedias, she finds a loose floorboard, slightly raised. Kneeling with surprising agility for her age, she pries it up with a letter opener from the table. Beneath lies a small, leather-bound notebook, its pages yellowed but intact. The cover bears the initials A.E., perhaps Ambrose Eldridge, the first Lord Eldridge, whose portrait is now missing. Opening it, she finds sketches of the manor's layout, with cryptic annotations, passage behind the rose window, third step creaks, and, most intriguingly, portrait holds the key. Her pulse quickens. Could this be literal or another riddle? Before she can read further, a creak from the doorway makes her slip the notebook into her pocket. It's Amelia, the young artist, her nightgown damp from the rain, and her eyes wide with surprise. "Miss Marple! I couldn't sleep. I thought I'd sketch to calm my nerves." She holds up a sketch pad, but her fingers tremble. Miss Marple notes the mud on her slippers, unusual for someone who's supposedly been indoors. "My dear," she says kindly, "this old house does play tricks on the mind. Perhaps you saw something in the gallery earlier?" Amelia hesitates, then shakes her head. "Just shadows. I'm jumpy, that's all." But her glance toward the tapestry suggests she knows more than she's letting on. They return to the main house together, Amelia clutching her sketchpad like a shield. Miss Marple bids her good night, but lingers in the hall, her mind buzzing. The notebook's clues point to hidden passages, and Amelia's muddy slippers hint she's been somewhere she shouldn't. Could she be involved, or is she merely curious? As Miss Marple settles back in her room, lightning illuminates the portrait of a stern-faced woman on her wall, and for a moment it seems to frown. She shakes her head. Imagination, surely. But the notebook burns in her pocket like a live coal. Morning breaks with a grey drizzle, and the breakfast room is a tense affair. Sir Reginald grumbles about the storm delaying his morning ride, while Clarissa sips her coffee with a distracted air, her eyes darting to Victor, who's engrossed in a financial newspaper. Dr. Thorpe excuses himself early, citing a patient in the village, though Miss Marple notes his medical bag looks oddly light. Lady Beatrice, pale and drawn, mentions the portrait again, her voice quivering. "It's more than theft, Jane. It feels like a warning." Miss Marple pats her hand, saying little but observing much. The riddle and the notebook are her guides now, and she resolves to explore the manor's passages after breakfast. As the group disperses, Miss Marple catches Victor whispering to Clarissa in the hallway, his hand brushing hers. "Meet me later," he murmurs, and she nods, her face unreadable. Miss Marple files this away, her mind turning to the notebook's mention of the rose window. The manor's chapel, with its stained glass rose window, is her next destination. Whatever secrets the portrait holds, they're woven into the very walls of this house, and she's determined to unravel them before the storm, or the thief, strikes again. This chapter closes with Miss Marple stepping into the misty morning, her umbrella shielding her from the drizzle as she heads toward the chapel, the notebook's clues guiding her like a map to buried treasure. The next chapter will follow her into the chapel's hidden corners, where a startling discovery awaits and the riddle's meaning begins to sharpen. Chapter 3. The Chapel's Silent Witness. The drizzle clings to Miss Jane Marple's umbrella as she crosses the soggy lawn toward the manor's chapel, a small stone building tucked behind overgrown yew trees. Its rose window, a kaleidoscope of crimson and amber glass, glimmers faintly despite the grey morning. The notebook's cryptic note, "Passage behind the rose window," pulses in her mind, urging her forward. She pauses at the chapel's oak door, its iron hinges rusted from years of neglect. The air feels heavy, as if the building itself is holding its breath. Pushing the door open, she steps inside, her sensible shoes echoing on the flagstone floor. The chapel smells of damp stone and candle wax, and a faint chill lingers, though no wind stirs the air. Inside, the rose window casts fractured light across pews worn smooth by centuries of worship. Miss Marple's eyes sweep the space. A simple altar, a brass candelabrum coated in dust, and a faded tapestry of St. George slaying a dragon. She moves toward the window, its intricate leadwork forming petals that seem to shift in the dim light. Running her fingers along the stone sill, she searches for anything unusual, a hidden catch, a loose panel. Near the base, her fingers brush a carving, a tiny rose etched into the stone, barely noticeable unless you're looking. Pressing it, she hears a soft click, and a narrow section of the wall beside the window swings inward, revealing a dark passage. Her heart quickens, but her expression remains calm, as if finding secret tunnels is all in a day's work. She lights her small oil lamp, retrieved from her room, and steps into the passage. The air is musty, thick with the scent of earth. The tunnel is narrow, its walls rough-hewn, and it slopes gently downward. As she moves forward, her lamp catches glints of cobwebs and something else, a scrap of fabric caught on a jagged stone. It's a delicate lace, the kind Clarissa might wear on her handkerchiefs, or perhaps part of Amelia's bohemian scarf. Miss Marple tucks it into her pocket, her mind cataloguing possibilities. The passage ends at a wooden door, locked but flimsy, its hinges loose. She hesitates, listening for any sound, but hears only the distant drip of water. With a gentle push, the door creaks open into a small, circular chamber. The chamber is bare except for a single object, a wooden easel, empty but streaked with fresh paint, blues and golds, as if someone recently worked here. Miss Marple kneels, noticing faint footprints in the dust, too small for a man's boots. Amelia's perhaps, or Clarissa's elegant heels. On the wall, scratched faintly, is another riddle. Where eyes deceive, the truth lies low. Seek the frame where shadows grow. Her lips purse. The vanished portrait's frame, perhaps. She makes a mental note to inspect it back in the gallery. As she turns to leave, a faint rustle behind the easel makes her freeze. It's only a rat scurrying into the dark, but it leaves her uneasy. This chamber feels like a stage, set for a purpose she can't yet grasp. Back in the chapel, Miss Marple emerges just as the rain stops. the clouds parting to let weak sunlight filter through the rose window. She's about to head back to the manor when she spots Dr. Thorpe hurrying across the lawn, his coat flapping and his face pale. He doesn't see her, but his haste is telling, and she notes he's coming from the direction of the old stables, not the village as he claimed at breakfast. She files this away, her mind weaving connections between the lace, the paint, and the doctor's odd behaviour. Could he be hiding something, or is he merely caught in the manor's web of secrets? At luncheon, the mood in the dining room is strained. Lady Beatrice picks at her soup, her eyes darting to the empty space on the wall where a minor painting hangs, as if she expects the missing portrait to reappear. Sir Reginald, red-faced, argues with Victor about a failed investment, their voices rising until Clarissa snaps, "Enough! Can't we have one meal in peace?" Amelia, sketching in a corner, glances up, her pencil pausing. Miss Marple, sipping her tea, observes silently, noting Victor's clenched jaw and Clarissa's flushed cheeks. The lace in her pocket feels heavier now, a clue that might tie one of them to the hidden chamber. After lunch, Miss Marple slips away to the gallery to examine the portrait's frame, still hanging empty on the wall. Its gilt edges are ornate, but she notices faint scratches near the bottom, as if someone pried at it. Kneeling, she spots a tiny compartment, cleverly hidden in the frame's base. Inside is a folded paper, yellowed with age, bearing a single word in faded ink. Betrayal. Her eyes narrow. The Riddle's warning about trusts betraying rings true, but who is the betrayer? She tucks the paper away, her mind racing. The frame, the chamber, the lace, all pieces of a puzzle that's starting to take shape. As the afternoon fades, Miss Marple overhears a heated exchange outside the drawing room. It's Clarissa and Dr. Thorpe, their voices low but sharp. "You promised you'd handle it," Clarissa hisses. "I have," Thorpe replies. "But we need to be careful." They fall silent as footsteps approach, and Miss Marple retreats, her knitting resumed as a cover. The manor is a house of secrets, each guest a potential player in this game of deception. This chapter ends with Miss Marple back in her room, the lace, notebook and paper spread before her. The clues are mounting, but the portrait remains elusive, and the riddle's meaning grows more tangled. In the next chapter, a midnight disturbance will draw her to the stables, where a shocking revelation ties the clues together and points to a motive rooted in greed. Chapter 4. The Midnight Disturbance. The clock in Miss Jane Marple's room chimes midnight, its soft toll blending with the howl of the wind outside Eldridge Manor. She sits by her window. The clues, lace, notebook, and the paper with betrayal laid out on the table like cards in a game. Sleep is far off. Her mind hums with questions about the hidden chamber and the scratched frame. A sudden crash from the direction of the stables jolts her upright, sharp and unnatural against the storm's rhythm. She wraps her shawl tightly, grabs her lamp, and slips into the corridor, her heart steady despite the hour. The manor is dark, its silence heavy, broken only by the creak of floorboards under her careful steps. Outside, the night is wild, clouds racing across a sliver of moon. Miss Marple picks her way across the muddy lawn, her umbrella doubling as a walking stick. The stables loom ahead, their wooden doors ajar, swaying in the wind. A faint glow flickers inside, not from a lamp but something smaller, like a match or candle. She pauses, her breath catching as she hears a low murmur. Voices, tense and hurried. Slipping closer, she peers through a gap in the door. Sir Reginald stands inside, his face flushed, arguing with Victor, whose usual polish is gone, replaced by a snarl. "You botched it," Sir Reginald hisses, clutching a small, glinting object. "A pocket knife, perhaps?" Victor retorts. "You're in too deep to back out now." Neither notices her, their focus locked on each other. Miss Marple edges along the stable wall, finding a broken window to better hear. The conversation shifts to money. Large sums, debts unpaid, and something about the portrait's worth. She strains to catch more, but a horse snorts nearby, and Victor's head snaps up. "What was that?" he mutters, stepping toward the door. Miss Marple ducks into the shadows, her lamp dimmed, her pulse steady despite the danger. The men leave, their figures vanishing into the night. But not before Victor drops something. A folded letter, half buried in the mud. She retrieves it, her fingers brushing cold earth. The letter, damp but legible, is addressed to Sir Reginald from a London auction house, mentioning a private sale and a staggering sum for the Eldridge piece. Her eyes narrow. The portrait's theft is no random act. Back in the stables, she examines the scene. A crate lies shattered in the corner, the source of the crash, its straw packing spilling out. Inside, she finds shards of painted canvas, too small to identify, but fresh enough to suggest recent damage. Could this be the portrait, destroyed to cover tracks? Or a decoy? She pockets a fragment, its edge showing a trace of gold leaf, like the frame in the gallery. The stables, dusty and neglected, hold other secrets. A muddy boot print, larger than Amelia's or Clarissa's, and a faint smell of turpentine, sharp and out of place. Her mind flashes to the paint-streaked easel in the hidden chamber. Is someone painting a forgery? Returning to the manor, Miss Marple takes a detour through the kitchen, where the night staff are asleep. A bottle of turpentine sits on a shelf, half empty, its cap loose. She frowns, recalling Amelia's sketching and Clarissa's flair for drama. Either could have access to such supplies, but so could the men. In her room, she adds the letter and canvas shard to her growing collection of clues. The letter points to Sir Reginald's financial desperation, and Victor's involvement suggests a scheme larger than a simple theft. The word betrayal from the frame's compartment looms larger now, hinting at a conspiracy within the family. At breakfast, the atmosphere is brittle, the guests barely speaking. Lady Beatrice, pale as porcelain, murmurs about bad dreams, while Amelia avoids eye contact, her fingers stained with paint. Clarissa, draped in a silk shawl, complains of the storm's noise keeping her awake. But Miss Marple notes her pristine nails. No mud, no paint. Dr. Thorpe is absent, reportedly called to the village again, and Sir Reginald's mood is thunderous, his eyes bloodshot. Victor, meanwhile, sips his coffee with a forced calm, though his glance at Sir Reginald carries a warning. Miss Marple, buttering her toast, lets the conversation flow around her, her silence a net catching every stray word. Later, she corners Hawkins, the carriage driver, in the garden shed, asking casually about the stables. He scratches his head. "Haven't been used in years, ma'am, except for storage. Odd, though. Saw a light there last night. Thought it was Fox's." His honesty seems genuine, but she wonders who else might have seen the glow. She decides to revisit the gallery frame, suspecting more secrets in its design. As she crosses the lawn, she spots Amelia sketching by the chapel, her eyes darting nervously. Miss Marple smiles but keeps her distance, sensing the girl is close to breaking. The chapter closes with Miss Marple standing before the empty frame in the gallery, its gilt edges catching the midday light. The clues, lace, letter, canvas shard, point to a plot driven by greed, but the players' roles are still unclear. In the next chapter, a confrontation in the drawing room will unravel a key deception, and a new clue will tie the portrait's fate to an unexpected ally. Chapter 5. The Drawing Room. Deception. The afternoon light filters weakly through the drawing room's heavy drapes at Eldridge Manor, casting long shadows across the polished floor. Miss Jane Marple sits in her usual corner, her knitting a quiet rhythm as she observes the gathered guests. The air is thick with unspoken accusations, the weight of the missing portrait pressing on everyone. Lady Beatrice, frail and restless, fidgets with her pearls, her eyes darting to the door. Miss Marple, her mind sharp with the clues from the stables, letter, canvas shard, turpentine scent, senses the moment is ripe for truth to surface. She's decided to stir the pot, using the manor's tense atmosphere to coax out a slip of the tongue. The conversation starts innocently, with Clarissa lamenting the dreary weather, her voice bright but brittle. "This place feels like a tomb," she says, fanning herself with a magazine. Sir Reginald grunts, engrossed in a cigar, while Victor, lounging by the fireplace, offers a slick smile. "Hardly a tomb, my dear. More like a treasure vault, if you know where to look." His words hang, and Miss Marple catches Amelia's quick glance at him, her sketchpad forgotten on her lap. Seizing the moment, Miss Marple speaks up, her tone mild. "Speaking of treasures, that portrait of Lord Eldridge must be quite valuable. Curious, isn't it? How it vanished from a locked room." She lets the question linger, her eyes scanning for reactions. Clarissa laughs, a touch too loud, while Sir Reginald's cigar pauses mid-air. Victor's smile tightens, and Amelia drops her pencil, scrambling to pick it up. Lady Beatrice gasps, "Jane, must we dwell on it?" But Miss Marple presses gently, "Oh, I only wonder if someone here knows more than they've said. The riddle mentioned betrayal, after all." The room freezes. Sir Reginald's face reddens, and he snaps, "Are you accusing us, Miss Marple?" She smiles serenely. "Not at all, Sir Reginald. But secrets have a way of coming out, like stains on a tablecloth." Her words hit a nerve. Victor's hand clenches his glass, and Clarissa's fan stops. The tension breaks when Dr. Thorpe enters, his coat damp from another village errand. "What's this about secrets?" he asks, his voice smooth but his eyes wary. Miss Marple notes his timing, convenient as always. She shifts tactics, mentioning the gallery frame's hidden compartment, though not the paper with betrayal. "I found scratches on it," she says casually, as if someone searched for something. Amelia's face pales, and she excuses herself, claiming a headache. Miss Marple watches her go, suspecting the girl's nerves hide more than shyness. The others deflect. Clarissa chatters about art thefts in London. Victor muses about insurance. But Sir Reginald's silence is loud, his eyes fixed on the floor. After tea, Miss Marple follows Amelia's trail to the conservatory, a glass-walled room filled with wilting ferns and a faint smell of paint. Amelia sits on a wicker chair, sketching furiously, her hands smudged with blue and gold. Miss Marple approaches softly. "Your sketches are lovely, dear. Do you ever paint portraits?" Amelia startles, her pad slipping to reveal a half-finished study of Lord Eldridge's face, strikingly accurate. "Just practice," she mumbles, but her eyes betray panic. Miss Marple nods, not pushing, but her mind connects the paint to the easel in the hidden chamber. Is Amelia forging the portrait, or preserving it? Later, in the gallery, Miss Marple examines the frame again, running her fingers along its edges. She finds another faint scratch, deeper, near the top. Pressing it, she hears a soft snap, and a tiny panel slides open, revealing a key, small, brass, and etched with a rose. Her breath catches. It matches the locked door behind the library tapestry. Before she can pocket it, she hears footsteps and turns to see Dr. Thorpe, his expression unreadable. "Lost in thought, Miss Marple?" he asks too casually. She slips the key into her sleeve, smiling. "Just admiring the craftsmanship. Old houses are full of surprises." He nods, but his gaze lingers, and she senses he's watching her as much as she's watching him. Dinner is a strained affair, with Sir Reginald drinking heavily and Clarissa flirting with Victor to mask her unease. Lady Beatrice retires early, murmuring about the curse. Miss Marple, excusing herself, heads to her room but detours to the library, the key burning in her sleeve. She unlocks the hidden door behind the tapestry, finding the passage unchanged, but notices fresh footprints in the dust, larger, like a man's. At the chamber's end, the easel now holds a canvas, half covered with a cloth. Lifting it, she sees a partial replica of Lord Eldridge's portrait, the paint still wet. Her heart sinks. The forgery is real, but who's behind it? As she leaves, a shadow moves in the passage, and she flattens against the wall. Lamp extinguished. It's Victor, muttering to himself. carrying a small bag that clinks faintly. Coins, perhaps, or tools. He doesn't see her, but his presence confirms her suspicions of a larger scheme. Back in her room, she adds the key to her clues. The portrait's replica, a glaring sign of deceit. The manor's secrets are unraveling, but the betrayer's identity remains elusive. This chapter ends with Miss Marple staring at the key, its rose etching glinting in the lamplight. The forgery points to a plot beyond theft, and Victor's midnight prowling suggests time is running out. In the next chapter, a confrontation with Amelia will reveal her role, and a new discovery in the manor's attic will deepen the mystery. Chapter 6. The Attic's Forgotten Truth. The morning sun struggles through heavy clouds, casting a muted glow over Eldridge Manor as Miss Jane Marple sips her tea in the breakfast room. The brass key with the rose etching, now hidden in her knitting bag, weighs on her mind, as does the half-finished portrait replica in the hidden chamber. Victor's late-night prowling and Amelia's nervous sketching point to a web of deceit, but the full picture remains elusive. Determined to uncover more, Miss Marple decides to explore the attic, hinted at by Hawkins' earlier mention of missing valuables stored there. She senses the manor's upper reaches might hold answers, forgotten relics that could tie the clues together. After breakfast, she excuses herself, claiming a need for fresh air, and slips upstairs to the attic's narrow staircase. Tucked behind a faded curtain in the east wing, the steps creak under her weight, and the air grows colder as she ascends. At the top, a heavy door groans open, revealing a vast, dusty space cluttered with crates, old furniture, and cobweb-draped trunks. The attic smells of mildew and time, and a single dormer window lets in a sliver of light. Miss Marple moves carefully, her lamp casting shadows that dance across cracked portraits and tarnished silver. She's searching for anything connected to the Eldridge family, or the vanished portrait. Among the clutter, she finds a wooden chest, its lock broken, contents spilling out. Inside are old letters, yellowed with age, and a small painting of a woman in a lace cap, her eyes strikingly similar to Lord Eldridge's in the missing portrait. A note tucked beneath reads, "Margaret, 1789, keep safe." Miss Marple's brow furrows. Could this be Lord Eldridge's wife, or a clue to the portrait's significance? Digging deeper, she uncovers a bundle of documents, legal papers detailing a disputed inheritance, naming a distant cousin, Edward Langford, as a claimant. The name rings a bell. Victor's surname is Langford. Her pulse quickens. Is he chasing a forgotten claim through the portrait? A faint thud interrupts her thoughts, coming from the far end of the attic. She moves toward it, lamp low, and spots a trapdoor in the floor, slightly ajar. Peering through, she sees a ladder descending to a narrow passage below, likely connecting to the manor's upper rooms. Fresh scuff marks on the ladder suggest recent use. Before she can investigate, a shadow flickers, and she steps back, heart steady, but senses alert. It's Amelia, emerging from a pile of crates, her face smudged with dust. "Miss Marple, I was looking for old frames for my sketches," she stammers, clutching a small canvas. Miss Marple notes the paint on her fingers, fresh and blue, matching the replica's hues. "Frames, dear," Miss Marple says gently, her eyes kind but piercing. Or perhaps something more. "Personnel?" Amelia's lip trembles, and she sinks onto a trunk, her resolve crumbling. "I didn't mean to lie," she whispers. "I painted the replica to protect Aunt Beatrice. Someone threatened to destroy the portrait unless I helped. I thought it was just a prank, but—" Her voice breaks, and she buries her face in her hands. Miss Marple pats her shoulder, coaxing out more. Amelia admits she was approached by a man, someone she won't name, who knew about her art studies and offered money to copy the portrait. She worked in the hidden chamber, but swears she doesn't know where the original is. Miss Marple listens, her mind racing. Amelia's confession clears her of theft, but implicates another, likely Victor or Sir Reginald, given their stable argument. She urges Amelia to stay quiet for now, sensing the girl's fear is genuine. As they descend from the attic, Miss Marple pockets the inheritance papers, their mention of Edward Langford a thread she must pull. Back in the hallway, she catches sight of Clarissa slipping into Dr. Thorpe's room, her movements furtive. The door closes quickly, but not before Miss Marple hears a low murmur. "We can't wait any longer." Her suspicions deepen. Clarissa's involvement is clearer, but her motive remains murky. At lunch, the guests are subdued, the weight of secrets palpable. Sir Reginald avoids Victor's gaze, while Lady Beatrice murmurs about selling the manor to cover debts. Miss Marple, slicing her roast, drops a subtle question about family history, watching Victor flinch at the mention of distant cousins. His reaction confirms her hunch. The Langford connection is key. She resolves to confront him later, but first, she must check the passage beneath the attic trapdoor, suspecting it leads to more answers. As evening falls, Miss Marple slips back to the attic, lamp in hand. The trapdoor opens easily, and she descends the ladder, finding a cramped corridor lined with old portraits. Their faces faded, but watchful. At its end, a locked door bears the same rose-etching as her key. Her fingers tremble slightly as she turns it, the lock clicking open. Inside is a small room, empty save for a single object. A velvet cloth folded neatly, with a faint outline of a rectangular shape beneath. She lifts it, revealing nothing but dust, but the shape matches the missing portrait's size. This chapter closes with Miss Marple standing in the attic's secret room, the empty space beneath the cloth a taunting clue. Amelia's confession and the Langford papers point to a deeper motive, but the portrait's fate remains hidden. In the next chapter, a confrontation with Victor will spark a revelation, and a discovery in the manor's cellar will bring Miss Marple closer to the truth. Chapter 7. The Cellar's Cold Truth. The evening settles over Eldridge Manor like a heavy fog, the air thick with the promise of more rain. Miss Jane Marple sits in her room, the rose-etched key, the Langford inheritance papers, and Amelia's tearful confessions swirling in her mind. The empty space beneath the velvet cloth in the attic's secret room gnaws at her, too deliberate, too staged. The portrait's absence feels like a taunt, and Victor's connection to the Langford name, coupled with his heated exchange with Sir Reginald in the stables, points to a motive rooted in more than mere theft. She suspects the manor's cellar, mentioned in passing by Hawkins as a place for old junk, might hold the final piece of this puzzle. Determined to confront Victor and explore the cellar's depths, Miss Marple slips on her shawl, her knitting bag a comforting weight at her side, and prepares for a night of answers. The drawing room is dimly lit when she descends, the fire casting flickering shadows across the guests' faces. Lady Beatrice, frail and withdrawn, sips chamomile tea, her hands trembling. Sir Reginald, nursing a brandy, glares at the hearth, while Clarissa, draped in a velvet dress, laughs too brightly at one of Dr. Thorpe's dry remarks. Amelia sits apart, sketching in a corner, her eyes red-rimmed but resolute. Victor, however, is the picture of ease, leaning against the mantel with a cigar, his gold pinky ring catching the light. Miss Marple senses the moment is ripe for disruption. She clears her throat, her voice soft but deliberate. "Mr. Langford, I've been reading about the Eldridge family history. Curious name, Langford. Appears in some old papers about a disputed inheritance. Would you know anything about that?" The room stills. Victor's cigar pauses, his smile faltering for a fraction of a second before he recovers. "Family history, Miss Marple? I'm just a distant cousin, here for business, not nostalgia." His tone is smooth, but his eyes flick to Sir Reginald, who coughs violently into his glass. Clarissa's laugh dies, and Dr. Thorpe adjusts his spectacles, his fingers twitching. Amelia's pencil scratches louder, a nervous rhythm. Miss Marple presses on, her tone as mild as milk. "Oh, but the papers mentioned an Edward Langford tied to a claim on this very estate, and with the portrait gone, one wonders if old grudges have resurfaced." Victor's jaw tightens, and he stubs out his cigar with unnecessary force. Grudges? That's ancient history. You're chasing ghosts, Miss Marple. She smiles, unperturbed, but notes the sweat beading on his brow. Before she can push further, Lady Beatrice rises, her voice quavering. Please, Jane, no more. This talk of curses and betrayal, it's too much. She sways, and Dr. Thorpe rushes to her side, guiding her to her room. The moment breaks, but Miss Marple catches Victor's glance at Clarissa, a warning or a plea. She resolves to follow him later, suspecting he'll move tonight. For now, the cellar calls, its promise of secrets too strong to ignore. Slipping away as the guests retire, Miss Marple navigates the manor's back passages, her lamp a soft glow against the dark. The cellar door, tucked behind the kitchen, is heavy and bolted, but the lock yields to a hairpin from her bag, a trick learned from a mischievous nephew years ago. The stairs descend into a cavernous space, cold and damp, the air heavy with the scent of mould and old wine. Her lamp reveals rows of barrels, crates, and shelves cluttered with forgotten relics, chipped china, rusted tools, and stacks of mouldering books. She moves deeper, her footsteps echoing, until she reaches a far corner where a stone wall seems newer than the rest, its mortar less worn. Her fingers trace the seams, finding a loose stone that shifts under pressure. With a gentle push, the stone slides inward, revealing a hidden alcove. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, is a rectangular object, the size and shape of the missing portrait. Her heart leaps as she unwraps it, but her hope fades. It's not the portrait, but a mirror, its ornate frame identical to the one in the gallery. Etched into the glass is a single word: truth. Miss Marple's mind races. The Riddle's line, "Where eyes deceive, the truth lies low," fits perfectly. The mirror, a twin to the portrait's frame, suggests a deliberate swap, a deception to mislead. But why hide a mirror? She examines it closely, noticing faint scratches on the frame, like those in the gallery. Pressing them, she hears a click, and a small drawer pops open, containing a folded letter. The letter, dated a month ago, is from Victor to an unknown recipient, promising delivery of the item for a substantial sum, contingent on clearing the estate's debts. It mentions a meeting in the cellar, where the truth is kept. Miss Marple's lips purse. Victor's scheme is clearer now, tied to the estate's financial ruin, but the portrait's whereabouts remain elusive. As she pockets the letter, a creak from the stairs makes her douse her lamp. Footsteps descend, slow and deliberate. She slips behind a barrel, her breath steady despite the darkness. A figure enters, carrying a candle. Victor, his face taut with urgency. He moves to the alcove, cursing softly as he finds the mirror uncovered. He mutters, "She's been here," and checks the drawer, his panic evident when he finds it empty. Miss Marple watches, her mind piecing together his role. He's orchestrating the theft, likely with Sir Reginald, to sell the portrait and settle debts. But the mirror's presence suggests a deeper layer, perhaps a decoy to fool buyers, or a clue to the portrait's true hiding place. Victor leaves abruptly, his candle flickering out, and Miss Marple waits until his steps fade before emerging. She rewraps the mirror, leaving it as she found it, and makes her way back upstairs, her clues now a heavy burden. The Langford papers, the key, the letter, and the mirror's cryptic message. At breakfast the next morning, the tension is palpable. Sir Reginald's eyes are bloodshot, Clarissa's smile is forced, and Amelia avoids Miss Marple's gaze. Dr. Thorpe, back from another vague errand, seems distracted, while Lady Beatrice murmurs about selling the manor's art to save us all. Victor is absent, claiming a headache, but Miss Marple suspects he's searching for the missing letter. She keeps her silence, her thoughts on the mirror and its word, truth. The cellar has revealed a piece of the puzzle, but the portrait and the betrayer remain out of reach. This chapter closes with Miss Marple in the garden, the manor looming behind her as she ponders the mirror's role. Victor's panic and the letter point to a desperate plan, but the portrait's absence suggests another player in the game. In the next chapter, a surprising ally will emerge, and a confrontation in the gallery will bring Miss Marple face to face with the portrait's fate. Chapter 8. The Gallery's Hidden Face. The late morning sun casts a pale glow through the manor's windows, but the chill in Eldridge Manor's air feels sharper than ever. Miss Jane Marple, her knitting bag heavier with the weight of clues, the Langford papers, the rose-etched key, the cellar's letter, and the memory of the mirror's etched truth, senses the mystery is nearing a turning point. Victor's panic in the cellar last night confirms his central role in the portrait's theft, but the mirror's presence suggests a deeper deception, one she's determined to unravel. The gallery, with its empty frame and hidden compartments, calls her back. She suspects it holds the final key to the portrait's fate. But first, an unexpected ally steps forward, shifting the balance of her investigation. As Miss Marple sips tea in the morning room, pretending to read a newspaper, she overhears Amelia whispering to Hawkins, the carriage driver, near the doorway. "You saw it, didn't you? In the stables?" Amelia's voice is low, urgent. Hawkins grunts. "Aye, miss, but I ain't one for meddling." Intrigued, Miss Marple sets her cup down and approaches, her smile disarming. "Mr. Hawkins, you mentioned lights in the stables. Might you have seen something else?" Hawkins shifts uncomfortably, but Amelia, her face pale, nods at him. "Tell her, she can help." Reluctantly, he admits to seeing Victor and Sir Reginald moving a large flat crate in the stables 2 nights ago, covered in a tarp. "Looked heavy, ma'am. Didn't ask questions." Amelia adds, "I followed them after my sketching. I think it was the portrait." Miss Marple's eyes brighten. Hawkins and Amelia, unlikely allies, have given her a lead. She thanks them, urging Amelia to stay cautious, and heads to the gallery, her mind racing. The empty frame, with its scratched edges and hidden compartment, has been a focal point since the theft. She examines it again, running her fingers along its ornate gilt surface. The scratches near the top, where she found the key, seem fresher today, as if someone else has tampered with it. Pressing a different section, she feels a faint give, and a narrow panel slides open, revealing a folded sketch. It's Amelia's work, a detailed drawing of the portrait, with notes in her neat hand. Gold leaf on frame, hidden hinge, check back. Miss Marple's lips purse. Amelia's been investigating too, her artist's eye catching details even Miss Marple missed. Before she can ponder further, the gallery door creaks open and Clarissa enters, her silk scarf trailing like a banner. "Miss Marple, always poking about," she says, her tone teasing, but her eyes sharp. "Found anything interesting?" Miss Marple tucks the sketch into her sleeve, her voice mild. "Just admiring the frame's craftsmanship. It's quite revealing." Clarissa's smile falters, and she steps closer, her perfume cloying. "You're too curious for your own good. Some things are better left alone." The warning is clear, but Miss Marple meets her gaze calmly. "Oh, I find curiosity often lights the way, Mrs. Eldridge. Like finding a hidden hinge, perhaps." Clarissa stiffens, then laughs, brushing it off, but her exit is hasty, her heels clicking down the hall. Miss Marple's suspicion of Clarissa deepens. Her presence in the gallery feels deliberate, as if she's guarding something. Returning to the frame, Miss Marple examines the back, where Amelia's sketch noted a hinge. Sure enough, a concealed seam runs along the edge, barely visible. Using a hairpin, she pries it open, revealing a shallow recess. Inside lies a small, sealed envelope addressed to The Heir in faded ink. Her fingers tremble as she opens it, finding a single sheet, a codicil to the Eldridge will dated 1789, granting a portion of the estate to Edward Langford's line if the portrait of Lord Eldridge is preserved. The codicil's wax seal is broken, suggesting someone, Victor, has read it recently. The portrait isn't just art, it's a legal key to a fortune. As she pockets the codicil, footsteps echo again. heavier this time. It's Sir Reginald, his face flushed with brandy and anger. "What are you doing, meddling in my family's affairs?" he barks, looming over her. Miss Marple, unfazed, closes the frame's recess. "Merely admiring history, Sir Reginald. Though history can be costly, can't it? Debts, for instance." His eyes narrow, and he grabs her arm, his grip tight. "You're out of your depth, old woman." But before he can say more, Amelia bursts in, her voice shrill. "Leave her alone!" Sir Reginald releases Miss Marple, muttering, and storms out, leaving a charged silence. Amelia, trembling, whispers, "I saw him with Victor last night near the stables again. They were arguing about a buyer." Miss Marple pats Amelia's hand, her mind whirring. The codicil ties Victor's Langford lineage to the portrait's value, and Sir Reginald's debts explain his involvement. But Clarissa's warning and the mirror in the cellar suggest another layer, perhaps a plan to pass off a forgery. She decides to revisit the stables tonight, armed with Hawkins's and Amelia's accounts. As evening falls, she slips out, lamp dimmed, and finds the stables quiet but for the rustle of horses. The crate Hawkins described is gone, but in its place is a pile of straw, stained with fresh paint, gold, like the frame. A faint trail of footprints leads to the manor's back entrance near the cellar. Dinner is tense, with Victor absent again and Sir Reginald drinking heavily. Lady Beatrice, sensing the strain, retires early, while Dr. Thorpe watches Miss Marple with a calculating gaze. Clarissa, meanwhile, avoids her, her laughter forced. Miss Marple keeps the codicil hidden, its implications too dangerous to reveal yet. As she retires, she overhears Dr. Thorpe whispering to Clarissa in the hall, "It's nearly done. Just keep her distracted." The words confirm Miss Marple's hunch. The doctor is complicit, perhaps the mastermind. This chapter closes with Miss Marple in her room, the codicil and sketch beside her knitting. The gallery has revealed the portrait's legal weight, and Amelia's alliance strengthens her resolve. In the next chapter, a midnight chase through the manor's passages will uncover the portrait's hiding place, and a betrayal will come to light, threatening to unravel everything. Chapter 9. The Midnight Chase. The moon hangs low over Eldridge Manor, its pale light barely piercing the clouds as Miss Jane Marple sits by her window, the codicil and Amelia's sketch tucked safely in her knitting bag. The night is restless, the wind rattling the panes, mirroring the urgency in her thoughts. The portrait's legal significance, tied to the Langford inheritance, points to Victor and Sir Reginald's greed. But Dr. Thorpe's whispered words to Clarissa, "It's nearly done," suggest a plan nearing its climax. The paint-stained straw in the stables and Amelia's account of a crate hint that the portrait is still on the estate, hidden but close. Miss Marple resolves to follow the trail tonight, suspecting the manor's passages hold the final answer. A faint thud from below, near the back entrance, spurs her into action. She slips into the darkened corridor, lamp dimmed to a faint glow, her sensible shoes silent on the rugs. The manor feels alive, its creaks and groans masking her movements. Guided by the footprint trail from the stables, she heads toward the cellar's back entrance, but a flicker of light in the east wing catches her eye. It's coming from the passage behind the library's tapestry, where she found the notebook. Her pulse quickens. Someone is there, and she suspects it's Victor or Sir Reginald, moving the portrait under cover of night. She creeps toward the tapestry, lifting it to reveal the hidden door, now slightly ajar. A low murmur drifts out, too faint to decipher, but the urgency is clear. Stepping into the passage, Miss Marple moves cautiously, her lamp casting long shadows on the rough stone walls. The air is damp, the scent of turpentine faint but unmistakable, linking back to the stables and the hidden chamber's easel. The passage twists, leading deeper into the manor's heart, and she hears footsteps ahead, heavy, hurried, and more than one pair. She extinguishes her lamp, relying on the faint moonlight filtering through a crack in the wall. Peering around a corner, she sees two figures, Victor, carrying a wrapped bundle the size of the portrait, and Dr. Thorpe, his face grim, holding a small lantern. "Hurry," Thorpe whispers. "The buyer's waiting at the gate." Victor grunts, shifting the bundle. "If Reginald hadn't panicked, we'd be done by now." Miss Marple follows at a distance, her heart steady despite the risk. The passage slopes upward, ending at a narrow door she hasn't seen before, leading to the manor's old servants' quarters. The door opens to a dusty hallway, lined with faded wallpaper and locked rooms. Victor and Thorpe pause, checking a pocket watch, then slip into a room at the hall's end. Miss Marple waits, counting breaths, then approaches, finding the door unlocked. Inside, the room is bare but for a table where the bundle lies, partially unwrapped. It's the portrait, Lord Eldridge's stern face staring up, the gold frame gleaming. Her breath catches. The painting is intact, but its presence here confirms a sale is imminent. Before she can retreat, a floorboard creaks behind her. She turns to find Clarissa, her eyes wide with shock, a silk scarf clutched in her hands. "You shouldn't be here," Clarissa hisses, her voice low but fierce. Miss Marple, calm as ever, replies, "Nor should you, Mrs. Eldridge. Helping with the sale, perhaps." Clarissa's face crumples and she whispers, "I had no choice. Thorpe, he knows things about me. He threatened to tell Reginald." Her confession is cut short by a shout from Victor inside the room. "Who's there?" Miss Marple pulls Clarissa into the shadows as Victor and Thorpe emerge, the portrait rewrapped. They head toward the manor's back stairs, likely aiming for the gate. Miss Marple, with Clarissa trailing reluctantly, follows, her mind racing. Clarissa's fear of Thorpe suggests blackmail, but her role in the theft is unclear. The group descends to the ground floor, nearing the back entrance, when a figure steps from the darkness. Amelia, her sketchpad gone, her face set with determination. "Stop!" she calls, her voice trembling but firm. Victor curses, and Thorpe grabs her arm, but Miss Marple steps forward, her voice cutting through. "Let her go, Doctor. The game's up." Thorpe hesitates, his lantern wavering, and Victor snarls, "You're meddling in things you don't understand, old woman." In the tense standoff, Miss Marple reveals the codicil, holding it up like a shield. This ties the portrait to the Langford inheritance. Selling it won't just rob Lady Beatrice. It'll expose your claim, Mr. Langford. Victor's face pales, but Thorpe laughs, cold and sharp. "You're clever, Miss Marple, but too late. The buyer's already paid." Before he can move, Amelia wrenches free, shoving Thorpe into Victor. The portrait falls, its frame cracking, and Miss Marple seizes the moment, grabbing the bundle and retreating toward the hall. Thorpe lunges, but Clarissa, in a sudden burst of courage, trips him, sending him sprawling. The chase spills into the main hall, where Lady Beatrice, alerted by the noise, stands trembling at the foot of the stairs. "What's happening?" she cries. Miss Marple, clutching the portrait, calls out, "The portrait's safe, Beatrice." "But these men have betrayed you." Victor, cornered, tries to bolt, but Hawkins appears, blocking the door with his burly frame. "Not so fast," he growls, loyal to his mistress. Thorpe, scrambling up, glares at Clarissa, but she turns away, her loyalty shifting. Amelia, panting, stands by Miss Marple, her alliance now unbreakable. As the chaos settles, Miss Marple unwraps the portrait, revealing Lord Eldridge's face, its eyes as piercing as ever. "The codicil," she explains, "proves its value to the estate, and Victor's plan to sell it would have enriched him while ruining the family." Thorpe's blackmail tied Clarissa to the scheme, but her last-minute defiance saved the day. The portrait is returned to the gallery, its frame repaired, but the betrayal lingers, heavy in the air. This chapter closes with Miss Marple in the gallery, the portrait back in place, its secrets laid bare. Victor and Thorpe are detained, but questions remain about the full extent of the plot. In the final chapter, Miss Marple will unravel the last threads, revealing the mastermind and ensuring justice for Eldridge Manor. Chapter 10. The Final Unveiling. The morning sun breaks through the clouds, bathing Eldridge Manor in a soft golden light, as if the house itself is exhaling after days of tension. Miss Jane Marple stands in the drawing room, the portrait of Lord Eldridge safely restored to its place in the gallery, its stern gaze watching over the gathered guests. Victor and Dr. Thorpe, their scheme exposed during the midnight chase, sit under Hawkins' watchful eye, their faces a mix of defiance and defeat. Lady Beatrice, frail but resolute, clutches a handkerchief, while Amelia, Clarissa, and Sir Reginald form a tense circle around the room. Miss Marple, her knitting bag at her side, holds the codicil, the rose-etched key, the cellar's letter, Amelia's sketch, and the mirror's cryptic truth in her mind, ready to weave the final threads of the mystery into a complete tapestry. The time has come to reveal the mastermind and ensure justice for the manor. Miss Marple clears her throat, her voice calm but commanding attention. The riddle of the vanished portrait is solved, but not without uncovering a web of greed and betrayal. Let's start at the beginning. She holds up the codicil, its faded ink stark in the light. This document, hidden in the gallery frame, grants a portion of the Eldridge estate to the Langford line, provided the portrait of Lord Eldridge remains in the family's possession. Its value isn't just artistic, it's a legal key to a fortune. Victor shifts uncomfortably, his eyes darting to the door, but Hawkins' presence keeps him still. Miss Marple continues, Mr. Langford, as a descendant of Edward Langford, knew this. His plan was to steal the portrait, sell it to a private buyer, and claim the inheritance, leaving the estate bankrupt. She turns to Sir Reginald, whose face is flushed with shame. Sir Reginald, your debts made you an easy partner. The letter I found in the cellar from Victor to a buyer promised a sale to cover those debts. You argued in the stables, didn't you, when Victor pushed for a quick deal? Sir Reginald nods, his voice gruff. I was desperate. The manor was bleeding money. I thought selling the portrait would save us. Lady Beatrice gasps, her hand trembling, but Miss Marple's gentle pat calms her. You were misled, Sir Reginald, but not blameless. Next she addresses Clarissa, whose eyes are downcast. Mrs. Eldridge, you were drawn in by Dr. Thorpe's blackmail. He knew secrets from your past, perhaps an old scandal from your acting days. Clarissa's head snaps up, her face pale. He threatened to tell Reginald everything. I helped hide the portrait in the stables, but I swear I didn't want it sold. Miss Marple nods, her tone kind but firm. Your courage last night tripping Thorpe redeemed you, but you should have trusted the truth sooner. Amelia, standing by the window, fidgets with her sketch pad. Miss Marple smiles at her. Amelia, your sketches and your bravery in the chase were invaluable. You painted the replica to protect your aunt, coerced by Victor's threats. But your notes on the frame's hinge led me to the codicil. You're no thief, my dear. Amelia's eyes well up and she whispers, I just wanted to help. Now, Miss Marple turns to Dr. Thorpe, whose calm facade has cracked, his hands clenched. Doctor, you were the mastermind. The mirror in the cellar, etched with truth, was your clever touch. A decoy to mislead us, suggesting the portrait was destroyed. You orchestrated the theft, using Victor's greed and Clarissa's fear. Your frequent village errands were meetings with the buyer, weren't they? Thorpe's jaw tightens, but he remains silent. Miss Marple holds up the seller's letter. This confirms your role. You planned to split the profits, leaving the Eldridge family in ruin. She steps to the centre of the room, her voice steady. The portrait was moved from the gallery to the stables, then to the servants' quarters, where I found it last night. The riddle. In shadows deep where secrets lie, the face that watches fades from eye, pointed to the hidden passages, used to smuggle it out. The mirror was a distraction, but the codicil revealed the true stakes. Thorpe, you knew the portrait's legal power, learned from old records you accessed as the family doctor. You preyed on the manor's financial woes, manipulating Victor and Clarissa to do the dirty work. Lady Beatrice rises, her voice quavering but strong. How could you, Harlan? After all these years? Thorpe sneers, his mask gone. The estate was failing. I saw an opportunity. Victor was eager, and Clarissa was weak. Clarissa flinches, but Sir Reginald, surprisingly, takes her hand, his anger softening. Miss Marple nods. The betrayal was yours, Doctor, but the Manor's secrets are safe now. She turns to the group, her tone softening. The portrait stays with Lady Beatrice, and the codicil will be secured. Victor and Thorpe will face the authorities. Hawkins has already sent for the police. As for the rest of you, learn from this. Greed and secrets tear families apart, but truth mends them. She glances at Amelia, who smiles faintly, and Clarissa, who nods, tears in her eyes. As the police arrive, led by a stern inspector, Victor and Thorpe are led away, their protests fading. Lady Beatrice embraces Miss Marple, whispering, "Thank you, Jane. You've saved us." Sir Reginald, humbled, vows to settle his debts honestly, while Amelia sketches the portrait, preserving its image for the future. The manor feels lighter, its shadows lifted. Miss Marple gathers her knitting, ready to return to St. Mary's Mead. The riddle is solved, the betrayers unmasked, and the portrait's legacy secured. As she steps into the carriage, she glances back at the manor, its windows gleaming in the sun. A final mystery solved, but she knows human nature will always bring another. This story ends here, but the adventure doesn't. If you've enjoyed Miss Marple's Riddle of the Vanished Portrait, grab a cup of tea and join us for more mysteries. Hit that subscribe button, like, and comment below with your favorite twist. Your support means the world to us.